A billionaire's dog was too dangerous for anyone to approach. Until a homeless 12-year-old girl with nothing but courage showed up at the gate. What happened next shocked everyone, and changed 3 lives forever. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the rolling fields of Whitmore Canine Estate, a sprawling, immaculate property tucked away in the quiet hills of northern Texas. Rows of well-built kennels lined the fences, each one housing dogs bred, trained, and cared for with military precision. But there was one enclosure, tucked furthest back from the others, that no one dared approach casually. Inside it lived Max, a massive German shepherd with a cold fire in his eyes and a reputation darker than the scars on his muzzle. Max didn't bark, he growled. He didn't chase, he attacked. 3 trainers had tried to rehabilitate him in the last 6 months. 2 left with stitches, 1 left with a broken arm. Yet Mr. Whitmore, the billionaire tech mogul turned recluse, refused to put Max down or give him away. No one truly understood why, until someone noticed an old worn photo on his office shelf. A boy, maybe 8, sat on a doorstep holding a dog that looked exactly like Max. The caption read, "Me and Duke, 1965. Whitmore had always been a proud, distant man. Hard to approach, harder to read. But with dogs he softened. They were his one tether to something human, to the past. That's why, standing by the fence with his arms crossed and a cold wind brushing through his silver hair, he made the announcement himself. $1 million to whoever can make Max friendly to people again. Not just obedient, gentle, trusting. No one laughed. Not one soul thought it was a joke, because they knew it wasn't about the money. It was about saving something Whitmore couldn't let go of, the last connection to the only love he ever knew. In the heart of the city where no one noticed the small or the silent, Maya drifted like smoke. Unseen, unwanted, unclaimed. At just 12 years old, she had already learned how to disappear in crowds, how to sleep on concrete without shivering too loud, and how to ask without using words. Her days were a patchwork of red lights and hurried footsteps. She worked corners where the traffic slowed, wiping windshields with a rag more holes than cloth, offering candy to strangers who rarely stopped. Her voice had grown quiet over time, not from shyness but from disuse. The world rarely listened, so she stopped speaking to it. She didn't remember her parents. Not really, just blurry fragments. A lullaby, a soft jacket, the smell of cinnamon. But those memories had long been traded for cold nights and empty stomachs. One afternoon, while crouched near a parking lot, she overheard 2 delivery drivers talking beside their truck. A crazy old billionaire's offering $1 million now for a dog. The other scoffed, "Not just any dog. That shepherd's a demon." Tore up a grown man's arm. Maya's ears perked up. She didn't move, she didn't blink. Just listened. Anyone who can make it friendly again gets the money. Later that night, she lay curled beneath the rusted awning behind a closed gas station. Her sweatshirt was damp, and her fingers were numb. But her mind wasn't on hunger or cold. It was on the dog. She didn't care about the money. She didn't even know what $1 million felt like. But something about that dog, something about the idea that no one could reach it, struck a chord so deep it echoed in her ribs. Maybe it needs someone like me. Maya woke before the sun. The city was still half asleep, wrapped in fog and distant sirens. Her back ached from the cold pavement, but she sat up with a purpose she hadn't felt in maybe ever. She had no address, no GPS, just a name she heard in passing. Whitmore Canine Estate, and a sense that it existed far outside the city, past the highways and the noise. Still, she stood, tied her broken sneakers, slung her plastic water bottle over her shoulder, and started walking. The streets were quiet as she moved through them, cutting through alleyways, over rail tracks, and out toward the countryside. She stopped occasionally to ask for directions. Some answered with a shrug, some with laughter, others with vague gestures. "Keep going past the fields. It's way out there, kid. You're wasting your time." But she didn't turn back. By midday, the concrete gave way to dirt roads and dried grass. Her legs burned, her lips cracked. Once, she nearly stepped on a snake. Twice, she considered quitting. But something inside, the part of her that still hoped despite everything, kept pushing forward. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, she reached the first sign of the estate. A tall wooden gate flanked by iron bars and a pair of silent security cameras. Behind it, rolling hills and buildings too far to make out clearly. Her stomach rumbled. Her legs trembled. But she stepped closer, her hand resting on the metal fence, as she whispered, "I made it." She didn't know what she would say or who would listen, but she had walked every step alone, and that meant something. The first time Maya knocked on the gate, no one came. She waited, gripping the cold iron bars, eyes scanning for movement beyond the trees. After what felt like an hour, a guard finally appeared, tall, broad-shouldered, with a pressed uniform and mirrored sunglasses that reflected her dirt-covered face right back at her. "What do you want, kid?" Her voice was steady, almost quiet. "I heard about the dog, Max. I want to try." He snorted, not laughed, snorted. "You? Try with Max? That dog would eat you for breakfast." He didn't open the gate, didn't ask her name, just walked away. But Maya didn't leave. That night, she slept curled beside the gate, her jacket zipped up to her chin, her arms tucked around her knees. Coyotes howled in the distance, and the wind bit at her skin. But she didn't move. The next morning, she was there again, waiting. The same guard came out. "Still here? Go home." "I don't have one," she said. By the third day, whispers had started among the staff. The girl at the gate, the one who didn't leave. One of the groundskeepers brought her half a sandwich, left without a word. She nodded in thanks, eating each bite like it might disappear if she blinked. On the fourth morning, as the sun climbed over the hills, she was standing in the same spot. Hair tangled, shoes worn through, eyes unwavering. The second guard, older, quieter, stood watching her for a while before speaking into his radio. "Sir, there's a kid here. Been coming back every day. Says she wants to meet Max." A pause. Static. Then a voice on the other end. "I'll be there in 10. Maya didn't know who had finally agreed to see her, but she didn't flinch, didn't run, didn't smile. She just waited the same way she always had. The crunch of polished boots on gravel was the first sound Maya heard. She didn't turn. She didn't need to. The man walking toward her carried the kind of silence that made people straighten up without knowing why. His name didn't need to be spoken. Mr. Whitmore, the billionaire, the man behind the $1 Million Challenge, the one who hadn't spoken to the press in over a decade, who had once been on every magazine cover, now lived hidden behind fences and dogs. He wore a dark overcoat despite the heat, and a deep frown was etched between his silver eyebrows. His posture was firm, proud, deliberate, as if he didn't walk so much as command the ground beneath him. He stopped a few feet from Maya. The guard stepped back. He studied her, from her matted hair to her torn shoes, his eyes sharp and unreadable. Didn't blink. "You're the one who's been waiting?" Maya nodded. "Why?" Her answer came quietly, but without hesitation. I heard no one could reach Max. Maybe that's why I should try. Whitmore's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his gaze. Surprise? Maybe? Or memory? He's not safe, he said. I know. And you think you can help him? No, she said. I don't think I can fix him. I just think maybe he doesn't need to be fixed. Maybe he just needs someone to stay. The silence between them stretched like a taut wire. Then slowly, Mr. Whitmore removed his sunglasses, revealing eyes that had seen too much and forgotten too little. He looked past her toward the kennel far in the distance, then back at her. Be here at sunrise. You'll have one chance. Maya didn't thank him. She just nodded calm, certain, like she'd been waiting for that moment all her life. The sun hadn't fully risen when Maya stepped into the yard. The grass was still damp under her feet, and the morning air held a chill that bit through her thin hoodie. Her fingers trembled, but not from cold. Today wasn't about being warm, it was about being brave. Across the field, handlers were preparing. One of them walked over to the far corner of the enclosure, where a thick reinforced post stood planted in the earth. Attached to it was a long, heavy-duty tether, coiled like a snake. Max hadn't been allowed to roam freely in months, not after what he'd done to the last trainer. Mr. Whitmore stood to the side, arms folded tightly, jaw clenched. His expression betrayed nothing, but his presence spoke louder than words. He needed to see this for himself. The second Max appeared, the air turned electric, as if every heartbeat on that field had synced to his growl. His coat gleamed black and gray, taut over lean, powerful muscles. His ears were perked, body alert, teeth slightly bared. The handler clipped the tether to his thick collar and stepped back immediately, eyes wary. Max snarled, deep and guttural, pulling against the chain with a force that rattled the ground. Maya didn't flinch. She stood just beyond the length of the tether, far enough to stay safe but close enough to be seen. She didn't speak, didn't wave, didn't challenge. She simply knelt. No tools, no commands, no tricks. Just stillness. Max barked. A sharp, threatening explosion, then lunged against the tether, muscles straining. The chain held. Dust kicked up around his paws. He paced in circles, pulling, testing, watching. And Maya, she waited. Quiet, steady, present. Minutes passed, 10, maybe 15. Max had stopped barking, but his body still twitched with tension. He stood at the farthest reach of his chain, breathing heavily, eyes fixed on the girl who refused to be afraid. Maya remained kneeling, hands resting gently on her knees. Her gaze wasn't on Max, not directly. She stared past him, softly, as if giving him space to watch her without feeling challenged. She didn't move. She didn't even blink too much. She just stayed. The handlers at the edge of the yard shifted uncomfortably. One whispered, "We should pull her out." Another shook his head, watching Mr. Whitmore, whose arms were still crossed, but jaw now slightly unclenched. Then Max did something that made everyone freeze. He sat, not out of obedience, not out of training, but because, for the first time, he seemed curious. His ears twitched forward. His tail, still low, gave the faintest flick. Maya noticed, but didn't react. She simply reached slowly, very slowly, into her hoodie pocket and pulled out a small half-eaten granola bar. She unwrapped it carefully and placed it in front of her, then moved her hand away. Max's eyes flicked to the food, then to her, then back to the food. Another minute passed. He stood again and took one cautious step forward, the chain clinking faintly. Then another, and another, until he reached the edge of the tether, inches from the granola bar and from Maya. He didn't snarl, didn't growl. He just stood there, breathing heavily, his face inches from hers. Maya lowered her eyes, never making direct contact, and whispered, just loud enough for only Max to hear, "It's okay. I'm not here to make you do anything. I just want to be here." Something in Max shifted, like a thread pulled loose from a long knot of fear. The sound of her voice, its softness, its lack of demand, it stirred something buried. A memory, maybe, a forgotten warmth. It felt like the echo of a love he'd once known, then lost. And suddenly, he didn't feel the need to protect himself. He leaned down, took the granola bar and sat beside her. Just like that. No force, no fear, no commands. Only stillness, only trust. Silence hung in the air long after Max sat beside her. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Mr. Whitmore stepped forward slowly, his shoes crunching over gravel. The guards exchanged glances, unsure if they should follow. The handlers lowered their radios. Something unspoken had shifted. He stopped a few feet away, his eyes locked on the unlikely pair sitting in the morning light. A stray girl and the dog no one could reach. "You did it," he said finally, voice low but clear. "No one else has ever gotten close. You won." Maya turned her head toward him, but didn't rise. "The $1 million is yours, as promised." She looked down at Max. His body now rested against her side, his breathing steady, almost calm. She stroked his back once, then stood slowly, brushing dirt from her knees. "I don't want the money," she said. A hush swept across the yard. Whitmore raised an eyebrow but said nothing, waiting. "I want a room," Maya continued. "Somewhere safe. A bed I won't get kicked out of in the middle of the night. 2 meals a day. And school. I want to go to school." Her voice didn't shake, but something in her eyes did. Just a flicker of vulnerability, quickly buried beneath the same steady calm that had tamed Max. Whitmore stared at her, as if trying to understand something far larger than what she'd said. "That's all?" he asked. She nodded. "That's all." He looked past her to Max, whose eyes now followed his every movement. Not with fear, but with quiet alertness. Then back to Maya. He exhaled slowly and spoke, softer this time. "You'll live in the main house. We have an extra room. You'll eat with me, and we'll get you enrolled first thing tomorrow." Maya didn't cry, not out loud, but her shoulders relaxed for the first time in years. She gave a small nod. "Thank you." Whitmore stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder with surprising gentleness. "You don't know what you've done here," he said. "Not just for him. For me too." That night, Maya slept in a real bed for the first time in her life. The mattress was soft. The sheets smelled of lavender. And the pillow cradled her head like it had been waiting for her all along. Her room was simple, a dresser, a small window, a desk with a lamp. But to her it felt like a palace. Outside the door, Max lay curled up, his ears twitching at every sound, as if guarding her from a world that had never been kind. He didn't bark. He didn't growl. He just waited, as loyal and quiet as the girl who had taught him trust again. In the room across the hall, Mr. Whitmore sat alone on the edge of his bed, the photo of me and Duke 1965 in his hands. For a long time he stared at it, not with sadness this time, but with something close to peace. He whispered to the photo, "She didn't fix him. She reminded him he was never broken." The next morning, Maya walked beside Mr. Whitmore like she'd always belonged there, barefoot, calm, with Max trailing behind like a shadow that had finally found its son. No one questioned it. No one doubted it. Later that week, she was enrolled in school. Whitmore had a new routine now: morning coffee, reading the paper, and packing a small lunch bag with Maya's name on it. Max would wait by the gate for her to return each afternoon, tail wagging like clockwork. People in town started asking about the girl at the estate, the girl who changed the impossible dog. And when they heard the story, most just smiled and said, "Some things money can't fix," because in the end it wasn't about the $1,000,000. It was about being seen, being safe, being believed in even just once. And sometimes that's all it takes to change. If this story moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful narratives. Share this with someone who believes in second chances. And remember, sometimes the quietest voices change the loudest hearts.